keeping my fingers crossed that Hasbro doesn't try to claim this Transformers video too. We're getting back to Transformers Prime reviews this week as well, with the episode Metal Attraction, an episode which takes on quite a bit. It attempts to further the Bulkhead Breakdown rivalry, the RC Arachnid rivalry, and develop June's new role in the group all at once. If you recall from my review of the previous episode, Jack's mother, June, discovered the Transformers and everything going on with them at the end of that episode. Well, at the start of this episode, she shows up at the Autobot base out of nowhere one day to feed the June X Optimus shippers.
Where's Optimus? And I wore heels and everything.
Mom!
And to check on her son, I'm sure that's on her to-do list as well. Now, she's being a little bit of a helicopter parent, not too bad of one, but we'll talk about that as the review goes on. Turns out Optimus isn't there. Again, surprise, surprise. And Ratchet is in charge while he's away. RC and Bulkhead both have some missions that they're about to set out on. RC to test some upgrades to her scanning equipment, and Bulkhead to check up on an odd magnetic reading that Ratchet has detected. Miko wants to go with Bulkhead, but he won't let her go, since investigating this anomaly could be dangerous. So when Jack tries to go with RC, June questions her. RC tries to explain that a quick run around the block to test some of her equipment is different than going on a potentially dangerous mission where they might encounter Decepticons. But June doesn't really understand the situation well enough to get that, and so RC gets all miffed with her and makes Jack stay behind. She goes with Bulkhead instead. They figure they can kill two birds with one stone, and if there are Decepticons there, then she'll be there to back Bulkhead up. Which is probably a good thing, all things considered, because Soundwave picks up the same magnetic signal, and Breakdown goes to check it out. He's trying to redeem himself in Megatron's eyes for losing to a bunch of humans. And you're left almost feeling bad for the guy here. Like, it's hard to sympathize with him to any large degree, but he has lost the trust of his peers, and he kind of doesn't trust himself all that much anymore either. It's rough to watch. Still, he assures Megatron that if there is something there worth bringing back, he will bring it back. He will redeem himself. And he sets out, arriving there before the Autobots do and encountering Arachnid, who also detected the signal, and the two of them get into a fight over the device emitting it. We learn throughout the course of the episode that this is a polarity gauntlet, a powerful Cybertronian weapon able to freely manipulate metal, even metal that seemingly isn't typically magnetic, by giving it various magnetic charges, changing its polarity, in short. Getting ahead of myself a bit, Breakdown is able to use the gauntlet to knock the Autobots around immediately after he first activates it. So I'm sure you can imagine what all someone as capable as Megatron could do with a weapon like this, especially if he had time on his own to really figure out the nuances of how it works. Obviously, letting him get the weapon is out of the question. Anyway, getting back on track, it turns out, surprise, surprise, Miko snuck out through the bridge along with Bulkhead and RC, and we get a really funny scene where the three of them interact with each other. It's a really short scene, but it's a perfectly enjoyable scene. I like it a lot. I like the dynamic between these three characters, especially since Miko, seeing how well Bulkhead and RC get along, is jealous of RC, not realizing that people who have known each other for thousands of years will just get along better in some ways than people who have only known each other for a few months. It's more of that harmless kind of jealousy that we saw from Starfire in the Teen Titans review that I did this week, and it does help to make this scene a little bit funnier than it would have been otherwise. RC lets Miko tag along at first because this is just a recon mission at this point, but as soon as they see the two Decepticons fighting each other, they leave her behind where she's safe, and then when they realize they're going to have to go after those Decepticons later on, they send her back to the base. That's all very important. Point is, they see the perfect opportunity to get the drop on their two nemeses, and working together, something that Arachnid and Breakdown aren't good at, they manage to get the drop on them, do some pretty good damage, but that's when Breakdown knocks them around with the Polarity Gauntlet, and then runs off with it on his own. Keeping in mind that June is listening to all of this, she hears how dangerous the Polarity Gauntlet is, and then she hears RC make the call that Miko has to return because it's not safe to go after this thing with them. Unfortunately, and this is where the title of the episode comes from, when Breakdown was knocking them around, almost definitely by accident, he managed to give RC and Bulkhead residual opposing charges, so they're stuck together now. RC is stuck to Bulkhead's back, and the two of them are now prevented from transforming lest one or both of them be damaged or destroyed. Luckily though, Arachnid tries to jump Breakdown again and take the gauntlet away from him, or else he might have been able to get back to the Nemesis before the Autobots could even catch up. They have another fight in which Breakdown and Arachnid actually team up against their nemesis, and the gauntlet changes hands between them a couple times. But just in the nick of time, the residual charge that's sticking RC to Bulkhead wears off, and they're able to engage their enemies properly, eventually getting the gauntlet away from them and using it against them. They don't finish the two Decepticons off here, despite all the trouble that these two have given them in the past, but hey, this is a kid's cartoon. I can't ask for too much. And they return to base, where June is waiting to apologize for RC. She now recognizes that RC is someone who will put her son's safety first. Meanwhile, Breakdown returns to Megatron, and even though he doesn't have the gauntlet, he does have, funnily enough, Arachnid stuck to his back, just as RC was stuck to Bulkhead's back earlier, so he has returned with something. A Decepticon traitor. I like this episode quite a bit. It's mostly a filler episode, just here to further some of these storylines, the bare minimum amount, while giving us some interesting things to look at. Arachnid is back in the Decepticon fold at this point, but that's really the only thing that changes here. Sure, we get a better idea of how June is going to fit within this group dynamic, but we could have gotten that in the background of any number of episodes. It didn't have to be here. I do like, though, that she is worried for her son's safety, but she's reasonable about it. She is reasonable about this. She trusts these people to know what they know as well as they know it. That these giant robot people are experts in all things giant robot and would know better than her in most of these situations. Like, yeah, she questions why it's safe for Jack to go with RC when it's not safe for Biko to go with Bulkhead, but that's just because she doesn't know the difference in these mission types yet. Like, I know some people don't like June being a part of all of this, they don't like her knowing about all of this, but I don't have a problem with it at all. I think her character handles things perfectly well. The episode had some good action in it, some good comedy in it. I really liked seeing the interactions between Miko, RC, and Bulkhead, as I said before, and I liked seeing the dynamic between these rivals as they were teaming up with each other to fight each other. The Polarity Gauntlet is a neat addition to the lore, which, if I'm not mistaken, does come up again in the future, so I guess that's another thing about this episode that wasn't entirely fillery. All in all, this is a good, solid, above